Hey y'all, Roxanne here. It's been a bit of a draining week, energy-wise, and so I thought for this video what I would do is give you a health update and also answer some of the questions that I'm getting in my other videos. So let's jump into it. Okay, so as usual, this video is not meant to give any kind of medical advice. If you find something interesting or applicable that I talk about, please make sure that you do your own research, number one, and actually do research. And number two, that you would consult with your medical professionals and the team that you're working with in order to make sure that whatever it is actually a right thing for you. So as far as the health update goes, I would say that, 13 months post-COVID or post my initial infection, I still dealing with some of the symptoms that I talked about in my COVID story video. Some of them to a lesser degree, but there are still some that are still pretty prevalent in my life. Number one, I would say, on cue. Number one, I would say is that I still deal with virus-induced asthma. It's something that is a daily thing that I'm trying to manage, trying to understand, trying to figure out so that I can actually continue to live and do some of the things that I love doing. I noticed that has gotten to be really interesting, I think, with the changing of the weather. I'm hoping that it's not just because I'm not managing it as well, but I think that the weather is definitely something that is impacting it. I still get that burning sensation in my back whenever my lungs are inflamed and deciding that they don't like whatever it is I'm doing. I'm still taking the steroid inhaler, still doing the albuterol inhaler, but now I actually do it before I exert any kind of energy and do any kind of exercise. Things that I didn't know. And then also the breathing treatments, the albuterol, like the actual breathing machine. I do get on that whenever I need to. It's really interesting though that there's a new addition, and this wasn't happening, I would say, even before. I don't think it happened when I was acutely infected, but I've noticed in the last few weeks or so that, grossness. So if you need to bypass it at like maybe 10 seconds into the future. I find that I cough up mucus now, and I have reached out to my sister because I was freaking out because I was like, what the heck is this? And as long as it's clear or even white, it's supposedly okay. It's when it gets to being yellow that there's an issue. So I have, though, in the last few days have had yellow. And so I've been watching that, trying to make sure that it's not something that persists, because if it does persist, then that's probably a sign of some sort of infection and I need to call my pulmonologist. So the asthma, still a thing, still trying to manage that, still trying to figure out a way to live and be active despite it. The other thing that has been kind of happening, sorry, notes are down there. The other thing that has been increasing in frequency, I think, is joint pain. So definitely in my hands, generally here is where I feel it, sometimes in the knuckles, but really here is where I tend to have some pretty rough joint pain, that actually makes me stop typing or just stop doing whatever I'm doing for a while because, watch on table. So that's been happening. But also I mentioned the feet, I think, in my COVID story. The foot pain is actually back again on the left side because the left side of my body tends to have issues. So yeah, that's super fun. When you're trying to walk anywhere or you're out in public or any of that kind of stuff and that hits, then you kind of look like you're crippled and limping. It's great. Glad, the good thing about that is that it's not constant. The hand pain is pretty constant, and I noticed that there seems to be a correlation between me consuming gluten and this getting more intense. So one of the recommendations of my neurologist, actually, to help deal with the headaches, the COVID headaches I was having, is to make some dietary changes, which I'll talk about in a future video. But yeah, I greatly decreased the gluten that I was eating, but your girl loves bread. Your girl loves like cookies and cake, and it's really hard, especially around the holidays, to be good with that. And so I'm trying, but when you know, everybody's celebrating and they bust out my favorite dessert, which is peach cobbler, it's a little rough. It's a little rough, and I do indulge, and then I pay for it. So if you're someone that's struggling with the joint pain, and even some of the other symptoms, it has been recommended to reduce or just eliminate gluten from your diet, just FYI. The other thing, let me look at the list. So joint pain, okay, so one of the other things that has been kind of popping up more frequently, I would say, is like the eye pressure and eye issues. I have this thing where like light sensitivity is definitely a thing, but also like it's really hard for me to focus. Even right now, it's really hard for me to focus on like looking into the camera, because like my eyes do this thing where it kind of zooms in and zooms out, and then zooms in and zooms out. And it's just, it's a weird, I don't know how to describe it. It's a weird like mental thing that happens. And like sometimes it happens when I'm driving, which is not good. And I have to make the judgment call. Like, do I pull over? Do I keep driving so I get to where I'm going? Yet another reason why I don't like driving anymore, which makes van life really hard. But anyway, I digress. So I have been definitely seeing that there has been changes in my vision. I have to wear my readers now in order, like while I'm working and things like that. Otherwise, stuff is super blurry. So I will probably make an ophthalmology appointment sometime soon and go in and get that checked again to see if my vision has changed and been impacted again, because it was impacted, months ago, but to see if that has changed. The other thing that I think is probably the biggest update that I have is that the fatigue has gotten to be pretty crazy. For anyone who is dealing with chronic fatigue in any of its forms, I feel for you. I mean, dealing with that and trying to still live a life that you are happy with is so difficult. It's so hard. Figuring out pacing, figuring out where your limits are, trying not to be frustrated with where your limits are and how they vary from day to day and week to week, trying to understand all of the things that impact where those limits are and how much energy you actually have in a given day. Like, I talked about it in my long COVID and pacing video, just how I realized that, the mental energy, the emotional energy, and the physical energy are all kind of working together, and how those are expenditures that we have, but holy cow, trying to manage that in real life is so difficult. So I've noticed that stress also really impacts my ability to do things and to have energy to do things. And so I think I mentioned maybe in the last week's video on COVID and grief that there are things that I know that are really stressful that I would have been able to do just fine before, and now I realize I'm not going to be able to do those things, and having to set them aside, goals and dreams that I had, has been really hard over the last few weeks. But it's something that is necessary, because I'm watching as I'll go throughout a day and, doing work and doing the things, taking the breaks I need to take in order to make sure I'm not overextending and just kind of checking in with my body. I do all of those things and I still stressed, still dealing with fatigue, and it's really frustrating. I've noticed too, or I didn't notice actually, my doctor caught this. Yay. My pulmonologist. We did a nocturnal oximetry test 2 weeks ago, I think now, and figured out that I may have sleep apnea. Yay. He said that I wouldn't be the first person that he has been seeing who developed sleep apnea after COVID. Apparently it's kind of a thing, something that you can watch out for. I initially went back to him and said, hey, so this thing happens when I'm trying to fall asleep. I still have insomnia to some degree, but through sleep hygiene, I've been able to manage it pretty well and get better at regulating my sleep and getting to bed at a certain time and being able to fall asleep and things like that. But I find that there are days when I'm trying to fall asleep where I will jerk out of my sleep as if someone is trying to drown me. And I have no idea what that is, because I don't think it's anxiety, which is like the first thing that pops up whenever you try to Google, you know, that type of phenomena. But he was just like, well, let's do another oximetry test just to see, like a nocturnal one, just to see what's going on while you're sleeping. And it turns out that my oxygen saturation levels dipped below 88% for a good portion of the night. That did not show up on the first nocturnal oximetry test that I did like in February, but it showed up in November. Awesome. So it's something that I will be testing for as soon as I remember to actually call and schedule that. I should probably do that because, you know, if you know anything about sleep apnea, it can induce things like fatigue and, you know, brain fog and, you know, the cognitive processing issues that I've been having, it contributes to those things. And so if I developed sleep apnea, then I'm going to be straight up Darth Vadering at night with the mask and things like that to try to get enough oxygen to my brain so that I'm not having those issues throughout the day. Not awesome. My father has sleep apnea, and I think he was diagnosed maybe in his 70s. Your girl's not in her 70s though. Yay. The other thing is that I don't snore. Like, I have a sleep tracker that tracks movement and noises at night. I don't really snore. So yeah, never would have called that one. The other thing I think that is the bigger thing that I'm kind of wrestling with right now is just mental and emotional health. For anyone who's dealing with long COVID or just chronic illness at all in any kind of, you know, any of its forms, those dips that happen because you get to the point of frustration or depletion as far as your reserves go for dealing with roughness in life, those dips happen. And I feel like last week I had a pretty significant one where I was straight up ready to Peter Pan my life, buy a van, quit my job, and just go live in the wilderness. Like, that was a thing. I wasn't just thinking it, I was planning it. And, you know, van life, I think I've talked about, or at least some form of it, part-time, is like a dream of mine. It's something that I hope to incorporate into the channel as far as like my own soul care goes, because for me, unplugging and getting into nature is like the best thing for me personally. But like straight up just avoiding all responsibility and just out. I'm out, Jesus. That definitely happened this week. So I think that... Okay, so as I was saying, you know, old people walking in the park, they don't care that you're filming. This guy was just having a full-on conversation. Anyway, I love old people. I love them. I'm gonna be that someday. Anyway, as I was saying, you know, those dips are legit. Definitely had one last week where I was ready to just Peter Pan everything and boat, like, just out. And so I had to have some conversations with some people, had to talk to my boss and just say, hey, I know that we just made these changes to my schedule and to my workload so that I could better manage things, but I'm not doing okay, and I think I'm exhibiting signs of burnout already. But I think the burnout wasn't work, it was all of the other things in my life that were just building one on top of the other until I got to this tipping point where I was just like, okay, this is not good. Then I'm just like willing to throw everything up and be like, bye. So I think that if you are someone that is dealing with any kind of long COVID, chronic stuff, just being aware of when you're getting to that point, please reach out to people when you're in that place. I know for me as an introvert, I like to kind of process things internally over here. And then, you know, once I've kind of gone through it, then I'll come to you and I'll be like, yeah, I was really struggling with that. This time I didn't do that. I actually reached out to people and was just like, I'm struggling. I need, you know, type of situation. So if you have safe people in your life that you can do that with, please do that. Yeah, I think that it's important to have people that understand what you're going through, who are empathetic to what you're going through, who listen well, and who are able to talk you off the ledge. Like, I have those people in my life and I'm so grateful for them. I have, reached out to my counselor. I have talked to other people who are counselors as well. And I've just been like, help me, because I am struggling. It's so important to do that when you need to. It's also, there is no shame. I talked to my pulmonologist about this and he referred me to my GP. If you are at the point where you think that some sort of medication will help you with just getting back to a baseline of being okay so that you can deal with all of the things that are going on, there's no shame in that. I know that for me personally, connecting with my church community is something that helps with that as well. Kind of gives me a different perspective, connecting with God, connecting with his people, like hearing other people's struggles and like sharing in their joys as well. Like, all of those things help with making sure that I don't spend too much time in the dip. I think the dip is inevitable. Just don't spend too much time there. I think that's all I've got. Yeah, I will say I'm doing better mentally and emotionally. So that's the end. Thank you for watching if you've made it this far. I'm about to jump into the 3 gratitudes. So if you would like to participate, drop 3 things that you're grateful for in the comment section. I also love reading your comments, so feel free to drop something down there. I try to respond to everyone. Yeah. So, okay, 3 things that I'm grateful for. Number 1, I would say, is my vehicle. It's really reliable. I feel very safe driving it around. Doesn't get the best gas mileage, but it is what it is for right now. It's spacious. I can go camping in it. All of that. So it's one of the things that I'm grateful for. Number 2, I would say, is my bosses. Like, I have some of the best bosses in the world. They drive me crazy sometimes, but when I go to them and have conversations like the one I had this week, and I say, I'm really struggling and I need to figure out like how to get myself into a better, more healthy place, they are 100% on board. There is no like condemnation. There is no like, you need to do your job. There's none of that. Like, there is such a high value placed on me as an individual and taking care of myself, which I found is kind of rare. So super grateful for them. And then number 3 is that the fact that technology allows me to do this. And the fact that I have friends who are halfway around the world who watch my videos and send me messages and let me know that they're paying attention. I absolutely love you guys. And especially one who like sends me WhatsApps all the time and it's just like, hey, saw your video. Love you, bro. So yeah, with that, I'd say thank you for watching. Please comment below, as well as like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. See you in the next video.